Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Stay with me here. 16 years ago, 3 weeks from now, I'm not sure I can say that. About 3 weeks from now, 16 years ago, I met all of you and you started praying for a 3-year-old grandson that I had with leukemia. Well, his birthday is Friday and he's 19 and sitting right there. So we're just proud for him. So he's graduated high school and makes more money than Granddad, and that's a great thing for a preacher to have a grandson support a little bit. He's really doing very well, and we're thrilled. He's on his graduation trip. He didn't get to do one right after high school last May, so he's here visiting a night or two, and we get to spend a little time together. His little brother Nash is with him, and his mom Shannon is with him, so Dad and Jake had to stay home and work, so not the whole family got to come. But we're just glad to see family a little bit. A lot of people are traveling. A lot of people are seeing family, and so I'm mindful of you as you are thinking of them. Keep them in your prayers, and I appreciate your prayers. Case will still let you pray for him, won't you, Case? He's not opposed to that, so he is an answer to God's prayer in lots of ways. We're thankful here. This morning we're going to look at a fellow by the name of Daniel. You've probably heard of him. But in a land far, far away, going to a school far, far away. Some of you are going to go off to school. You're about to head off to college. Last year it snuck up on me. I missed a lot of you. A bunch of them may be gone today, but I didn't want them to slip past me. Some of you are going to go to a school far, far away. And you're going to have to learn things that you didn't ever think you'd need to know. And you're going to be in a strange environment. And some of you are going to a school right nearby. And you're going to need to do things that you don't know how to do yet either. And that's what educators help us with and bless us with in so many ways. But just a little history. God used the Assyrians to take down the northern kingdom. About the time that he raised up Babylon to take down the Assyrians, a young man was born. And that young man probably didn't think about his future much. But about 15 years later, when Nebuchadnezzar became king of the Babylonians, he came into the land of Israel. And he looked at all the kids. And he picked himself out the cream of the crop. And so I want you all to remember to be the cream. Now, I had a heifer, and then she became a cow by the name of Frolic. And she was a registered Jersey cow. And if you don't know about milk and cream, how could you live and not know that? But a lot of people don't know about milk and cream now. Jerseys are prolific for giving high butter fat. And I would milk Frolic and take a gallon jar into the house, this glass jar. And in the morning in the fridge, the top half would be cream. The cream always rises to the top, always comes up to the top. And if Mom wasn't making butter, and she often made butter, but if she wasn't making butter, then you took a wooden spoon and just stirred the cream into the milk. And that's why I weigh what I do. Not really. It was. But you took all of that good stuff. It was just the cream that kept coming up. And that's how God designed milk to work. For that cream to rise to the top. The richest, most thick butter fat would come there. When we made ice cream, there was butter on the spoon before it froze. Did you ever have that with the butter? Some of you know that. Homemade ice cream that actually had butter flakes in it because you didn't take any of the cream out. It's probably illegal to eat stuff like that now. Pretty sure that it probably is. But I want you to be the cream. This young man that God raised up was probably 15, maybe not quite. And this foreign nation comes in, the Babylonians come in, and they capture him. and say, you're going to go to a school far, far away. And we're going to teach you a new language. We're going to give you a new name. And we're going to make you learn things you never thought you would have to know. And in Daniel chapter 1, we're going to do Daniel in the lion's den in chapter 6 in just a moment. But in Daniel chapter 1, everybody in history needs to hear this word. The Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, along with some of the vessels of the house of Shinar to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasury of his God. The Lord gave. Everybody thinks that the Babylonians come in and conquer Judah. God gave Judah into the hand of the Babylonians. God's been at work orchestrating history all of his life. Everybody in the world thinks they're in charge of so many things. But I want you to be sure and hear that. It's the Lord that gave Judah into Babylonian captivity. It's the Lord that raised up this young man, Daniel. And they took some of the best, some of the brightest, some of the wisest that were starting to show some implication, mindset to just excel at everything. And he sent them ahead of Israel into Babylonian captivity. It seems horrible. Daniel has to go. It's 15 years before the fall of the temple. It's 10 years before almost 20 years before the final deportation, 10 years before the major deportation, and Daniel's already gone. And he's already going to school. And he's learning all of the languages that come up in court of the Babylonians. And God put him right where he needed him and prepared him to rise to the top, to be the cream. You can go to Springtown High School and be the cream, or you can go to Springtown High School and be the rock on the bottom. You have potential. God longs for you to let him use your life. You can go to ECU and you can be the cream, or you can go to LCU, West Texas, Harding. We got kids going everywhere. Wherever you're going, God wants you to understand a few things. He didn't send you there by yourself. God went to Babylon with Daniel. He wasn't all by himself. And as soon as Daniel gets there, he and his friends say, this food's kind of rich for us. We'd kind of like some vegetables and water. We'd like you to plane this down a little bit. Can we just have some plain food? And the guy says, well, I'm responsible for how you look. He says, no, just give us some plain food. And they eat the plain food, and God causes them to excel beyond all of their peers and keeps raising Daniel up. So Daniel becomes this model of wisdom in Babylon. Think about the parallel. About the time that Daniel is born, Babylon comes to power. When Daniel is in the lion's den, you can jump to chapter 6. When Daniel is in the lion's den, the Babylonian kingdom is falling. That's the night it falls. I just found that amazing. That we look at Nebuchadnezzar as the main ruler in Babylon, but Daniel's the character that starts with them and ends with them. Daniel goes from the Assyrian Empire to the Medes and the Persians. He overrides everything in the Babylonian world because God placed him there and taught him what he needed to know. And he says, I want you to think of some priorities to live by. I want you to understand I didn't send you there alone. I came with you, and keep your priorities straight. Eat my food, God says. God raised him to the top. Bow the knee to where I would bow the knee. And Daniel is faithful to God. When they're going to wipe out people, Daniel says, let me pray to God. God gives him the king's dream, and he interprets it. And then God gave Daniel the ability to read the handwriting on the wall in Daniel chapter 5 that says, the Babylonians are going down tonight, and the Medes and Persians are coming in. And all of this leads us up to Daniel chapter 6. A story you're really familiar with. King Darius of the Medes becomes the ruler. It seemed good to him to appoint 120 satraps, chapter 6, verse 1, over the kingdom, that they would be in charge of the whole kingdom, and over them 3 commissioners, of whom Daniel was one, that these satraps might be accountable to them, and that the king might not suffer loss. Then this Daniel began distinguishing himself among the commissioners and satraps, because he possessed an extraordinary spirit. And the king planned to appoint him over the entire kingdom. Daniel possesses an extraordinary spirit, and the king is going to make him ruler of the Median Empire. I'm going to put you in charge of it. Well, we've recently had a regime change in the United States, haven't we? And we've got new political allegiances that are going. We've got alliances that are happening. We've got finger pointing that is taking place. Well, it was no different in their day and in their world. When all of these leaders see that Daniel's fixing to be in charge, they say, we better take him down. Politically, we can't afford for this fella to rule over us. We're going to lose our place. Some of you, when you go and become the cream, you're going to find somebody wanting to bring you down. You're going to find peers that want to attack you. You're going to find folks that want to destroy you. If you do really, really well at work, you better be careful, because your coworkers are going to be a little bit after you. Well, no, I want to excel. I want to be God's man at work. I want to do the very best. When you go and you're excelling in your work, people are going to attack you. The world is going to attack you. All the commissioners get ready to lay a trap. I'm not going to read all of Daniel 6. You know the story pretty well. But they try to find any corruption in Daniel. There's no political corruption. Can't find anything that they can accuse him on. No skeletons in his closet. He's been living with God all this time. He's been serving with God all this time. Politically, they can't find anything. So they look at his life and they say, if we're going to bring any accusation against Daniel, we're going to have to do it in regard to his God. The only way we're going to ever attack this guy is in regard to his God. But they don't attack him on the aspect that he broke some religious law or that he's immoral in the sight of God. They know that they can't even attack him in that way. What they do is they just manipulate the system. We're going to manipulate the system to take out this rogue that we don't want to be in charge, even though God has placed him there. We're going to eliminate him. So they go to Darius, and Darius is a new king. And if you're a new king and all the people come to you and they give you a great idea, you just go with it, right? Darius, we think you ought to set it up that for 30 days, no one should make a petition or a supplication. They shouldn't pray to anyone but you for 30 days. Now, if you're a Median king that's come into the Babylonian Empire and the people are saying, we want you to set up this law about how great you are, you're probably going to go with that. And the Medes have this law that we often invoked at our house. Shannon can tell you. It was the law of the Medes and the Persians, which could not be revoked. Sometimes you just have to set up laws like that. These cannot be revoked. And they come to him with his own language. We want you to use one of those injunctions that says, this is the law that's set up by the king of the Medes, and it cannot be revoked. Nothing can change it. And he agrees to this. Sounds good. Allegiance, all the people are on my side. They want to worship me for a month, going to pray to me for a month. But he's the one that had decided to set Daniel over the entire kingdom. That was his goal. I'm going to be in charge of these people, but I'm going to set Daniel over them. Well, they come to approach him. First of all, they make the injunction publicized. Everybody knows it. And they watch. What's the first thing Daniel does? Goes right back in his upper room. He goes to praying like he always prayed. Every time, 3 days, 3 times a day. Goes in his room, looks toward Jerusalem, and prays to Yahweh, God Almighty. And he makes sure that he continues his practice. Sometimes it's going to be dangerous for you to submit to God Make it your habit. Make it your practice. God took you with him. God's going with you wherever you go. And he says, just honor me. Submit to me. Never be afraid. You're not by yourself. And God is honored. So Daniel keeps praying to him. And they come to the door and say, Daniel, basically, you're caught. They take him to Darius and say, we found him praying to his God. And here's where the deceit is uncovered in verse 14. As soon as the king heard this statement, he was deeply distressed, set his mind on delivering Daniel. Wait a minute. Instead of greedily saying, that Daniel won't worship me, he knows who Daniel is. I'm going to release him. I'm going to find a way to turn him loose. I'm going to deliver him. Even until sunset, he exerted himself to rescue them. Finally, by the end of the day, verse 15, these men came by agreement to the king and said to the king, recognize, O king, that it is a law of the Medes and the Persians that no injunction or statute which the king establishes may be changed. You said, throw him in the lion's den. Throw him in the lion's den. And the king is caught. Verse 16, the king gave orders and Daniel was brought in and cast into the lion's den. The king spoke and said to Daniel, your God, whom you constantly serve, will himself deliver you. A stone was brought and laid over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet rings of his nobles, so that nothing would change in regard to Daniel. Actually, he's protecting him there, if you hadn't thought of that. He's making sure that no one rolls the stone away and harms Daniel. It's a protection. Sort of like that stone that Pilate sealed for Jesus. He's going to roll that stone and seal it so no one can claim to have stolen the body. Oh, they're going to make the accusation. That's what's happening here. Seal the stone. The king arose at dawn, at the break of day, and went in haste to the lion's den. When he had come near the den to Daniel, he cried out with a troubled voice. The king spoke and said to Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you constantly serve, been able to deliver you from the lions? I don't know, Daniel. You'd think he'd have to have at least a pregnant pause there. Just wait a minute, but he doesn't. Daniel spoke, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, inasmuch as I was found innocent before him, and also toward you, O king. I have committed no crime. Then the king was very pleased and gave orders for Daniel to be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. Something hit me this time that had not hit me before. How old was Daniel in the lion's den? If the Medes have just taken over the Babylonians, Daniel is a minimum of 75 years old. More likely closer to 90. And so we always put Daniel in the lion's den as a little bit younger than that in my mind. Think for a moment. What does it mean? God says, Daniel, I'm going to send you into captivity, but I'm going with you. And I want you to come to the top. Trust in me, believe in me, live your life with me. And he does as a young man, and things go well for him. And he has tribulation and difficulties, but then as an old man, he's still trusting in him. He's coming to the top. The cream is rising. And he's probably at around 85, I would guess. And as he's 85 years old, he's about to be the ruler of the whole Median Empire. And they have a little political opposition. You know what's so cool about Daniel's life that I hope is always true about yours, wherever you go to school, whatever you do in work, whatever you do in life from the time that you're 15 until you're 90, Daniel lived with God. That's all I'm hoping you'll do. Just live with God. Trust in God. Believe in God. All the integrity stayed in place. Daniel never lost his integrity. He ate God's food. He submitted to God's will. No matter what people did to him or threatened him with, Daniel's integrity is intact. If you look at this story closely, King Darius's integrity is intact. Now, you and I want him to say, well, if I can make a law that you can't revoke the law, then why can't I make a law that says I revoke the law that you can't revoke? But he doesn't do that. No, his integrity is intact. He walks up to Daniel and says, your God whom you constantly serve is going to deliver you. And we hear faith on the outside because they have seen Daniel's faith on the inside. And then God's integrity is intact. I sent you there as a young boy to guide the leadership of this nation that I'm using to judge my own people. And Daniel's been in leadership his whole life. And now he's in a lion's den. You have to wonder how a 90-year-old feels being tossed into a pit of lions. Daniel doesn't worry. Everywhere I go, he goes with me. God is always there, no matter what's happening in my life. Some of you are going to have a lot of trepidation when you go to new places. God's already there, and he'll go with you if you let him. He'll be right beside you. He may have you planned for something marvelous. You can do something great at Fulville or Paradise. You can do something great at Benbrook, Weatherford. You can do something great at Azle. You can do something marvelous. You can be the one that takes God in the school, that lives for him. We don't have Daniel preaching a bunch of sermons just when he has opportunity to say, oh no, that wasn't about me, that was about God. That's what he says. God took care of that. And he finds himself in a lion's pit. Of course, we always have to have our story end with the positive, right? In 24, the king gave orders, and they brought those men who had maliciously accused Daniel. Wonder what would happen to our political scene if all the malicious accusers are suddenly thrown to lions. And they cast them and their children and their wives into the lion's den, and they had not reached the bottom of the den before the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. That was my favorite part of the story as a kid. And crushed all their bones. That's Romans 12, right? Leave room for the wrath of God. Don't take your own revenge. You live with God, for God. Daniel didn't say, my God won't let you throw me in the pit. He just falls in the pit with God. Oh, he sent his angel. He took care of things. We're all right. But vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. God knows what's happening in our world. He knows what's happening around you. If you're under oppression, he knows who is oppressing you. Don't fret about it. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to honor the world. God knows. He takes care of things. You have people politically oppressing you at work. God knows that. You have people destroying you in so many ways. God knows that. He just asked one question. Will you live with me today? That's the only question he's ever going to ask you. From 15 to 90, will you live with me today? That's the priority you need to live by. Your take home, your relationship with God overrides all other allegiances. Make sure that's always true. Your relationship with God overrides all other allegiances. God is number one. And God will vindicate his righteous ones. He knows. He cares. He will defend you. He may defend you in death. He may defend you through death. He may defend you in ways that we can't fathom. But God will vindicate his righteous ones, just as Miles read about earlier. What are your priorities today? Does it change what you're afraid of? Are you too consumed with peer pressure? What are people going to think about me? It's totally different when you walk in there and say, oh, God's with me. What does God think about me? If you know what God thinks about you, don't worry about what the people think. Be God's person. Everything else will be okay. You're not God's person. Become one today. Together we stand and sing.